Crack, crack. Hello. Is this working? Oh, excellent. All right. Well, thank you for coming. I don't know how many of you have seen the current issue of 2600, but if you have, I'm going to be doing absolutely nothing new relative to what is in my column. But the column's kind of a complicated, it's running through a fairly complicated scenario, and so I'm just going to demo the what's in the column this time around. So what this device is here is an AT&T CallVantage, what's called an ATA in the voice over IP world, and it basically means a terminal adapter. And this uses this weird protocol that not many people use called MGCP. And it's all locked up, so you can only use it with AT&T's service because, after all, it was only $19 or something like that at Fry's. And, obviously, it probably cost AT&T more than that. So they don't want you using it with something free like FreeWorldDialup, for instance. So what I'm going to do is a procedure that I didn't invent, a gentleman named Sigma's did. And we're going to change it with the Swedish firmware for a similar device called the DVG-1120S. This is the DVG-1120M, but they both use a DSP board. And so by changing the firmware and by changing the bootloader, we can get it away from AT&T's service and use it with a free service like FreeWorldDialup. So the first thing that you need is a computer running Windows with an Ethernet adapter configured for DHCP. You can actually use other operating systems, but I know Windows, and it's easier for me to write procedures around it, so I just, it's my article, and I can make it that requirement. You'll need to get the firmware and the bootloader, and there's a site that you can download them from, but I have them here on my computer. And you'll also, obviously need the kit, the DVG-1120M. I can hold up the box later and show it off to anybody who's interested. And, you need a FreeWorldDialup account, which we'll sign up for. So, but the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do things a little bit out of order because I'm just going to go ahead and flash this stuff first. And then I'm going to go and do the FreeWorldDialup thing. So without any further ado, in here we have the firmware stuff. And by the way, if any of this doesn't work, I did bring a backup adapter so that you can see what it'll look like if we do things correctly. Sometimes the flash process is a little bit tricky, particularly when you're in a demo in front of 100 and some people. So I do have one that's done. I guarantee you the procedure works, but if we run into any technical issues, you'll at least be able to see at the end what this should look like. So well, it is maximized actually. This is just the three files that you'll need: the prom code, the runtime, and the Tftp server. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to know what the IP address of this adapter is so that I can connect to it. So I'm going to go to a command prompt and type ipconfig/all without the caps lock necessarily. And I can see that I have disabled my wireless adapter, and I have an IP address of 192.168.0.12, and I'm connected directly to this adapter here, so it's given me that IP address. And typically, you would have something in the 192.168.15.something subnet, so that's kind of strange. So let's go see what what they've done to me here. I might have connected the wrong ATA. Why do I have a wireless adapter connected? That should not be. And so if I go to 192.168.0.1, I have a D-Link adapter, and I want to go onto the web-based management module, and I'm an admin, and the password should be admin. Well, by default it is. And this is a DVG-1120S, which means I have the wrong one plugged in. So let me get the other one and plug this in, and we should have an 1120M when I do that. This is my backup one that's already done. So let's go back and see what our IP is now. And now, yeah, I've got 192.168.15.2. Oh, now that's cool. So I must have a newer revision. This just came out of the box now without admin as the default password. So we'll see if D-Link is. What's that? Okay, we'll do that. See, after the article came out, AT&T changed what their defaults were. I've read on the web that they've done that, and I didn't think that they'd do so quickly because I bought these like this one like a couple of weeks after the article went to press, but it did leak before that. So we'll try D-Link. What's that? Oh, you're not supposed to even go into the management module. They don't like actually include that, but we'll see. See, it's easy to get started. You just like go to their web page and like sign up and plug your stuff in and it's all done. So that's okay because what we'll do is I'll just switch over to this one that we've done already. And I'll walk you through the same process and you'll see that it works. That's disappointing. This is the law of live demos though, that if you do something without just taking it out of the box the same way that somebody else would. And I set this up on purpose just so that it's a brand new one coming from the box. You're going to get bet. So we'll go back to Ethernet. And you can I'll walk you through the configuration of this. And we can talk less about flashing and more about what you do with this thing once you've got it. Okay, so once you're in this guy, basically all you need to do is you would normally start the D-Link Tftp server. And Tftp is a protocol that basically works a lot like FTP if you've ever used that. And it's a way that you transfer files from a computer onto a device that you've attached to it. Typically, you'll use it for flashing firmware on cable modems or things like that. You can also use it to flash the firmware on a D-Link device. And so once you're in there and you have your Tftp server running, you would go back to the administration web page. And in the left-hand navigation pane, there's a firmware update page. And this is actually exactly the same as it would look if it was the MGCP adapter that we'd gotten into. And so typically what you would do is you'd say, okay, well, I want to update the firmware, And what's the address of my TFTP server? Well, it's the same one as my computer. And so we've gone back over to here, and we see that 192.168.0.16 is our IP address. So we'd enter that as 192.168. Yeah, too fast. And then we'd say that we want to enable the firmware update, and we would want to add the specific file name, and the file name is going to be for the prom code for the runtime module 1120s underscore runtime underscore s08.tfp. And so we would go enter that. And then I'm not going to do that here because we've already flashed this, but if I clicked save, then this would go out to the TFTP server, and we'd ask the TFTP server for that file. And D-Link, actually, you don't have to configure it. If you run it from the same directory that your files are in, it just picks them up and sends them across to the device. And at that point, once we flash the firmware, then then we would go back to the main menu on the device, and we'd click Save and Restart System. And so that would reboot our device. And actually, we can go ahead and save and restart the system so you can see exactly how it would work. And we can go ahead and save the settings and hit Restart. And there was an audible click. I don't know if it came across the microphone, but when these devices go, there's this loud click that happens. And you'll see some lights blink. And then eventually, when you see your link light come back, after a second audible click, you can get back in. So we'll go back in with the defaults. And so the thing that we would want to do is we'd want to confirm that the upgrade succeeded, because when we do this upgrade, then a couple of things are going to happen. The first thing is, instead of being 192.168.15. something, we're in the 192.168.0 subnet. So that's the first thing that we've seen has changed. And if it isn't that, then I can guarantee you that once however you've gotten into this device and with whatever password you've used, and you can search the web, and there are 3 or 4 different passwords that AT&T is using for this device now. My assumption was that they had not changed it this early. So whatever your password is, once you get into it, as long as you've got the same firmware that I've used in this, which you can also search the web to get, you will always end up in the 192.168.0. whatever subnet. So it's not going to be a case where that might have changed too. So once you've done that, and you've seen that your IP address has changed, then you would come back into your browser, and you go to 192.168.0.1, at which point you'll get this, and you can log in, admin, and admin. And then the next thing that you're going to see is that your configuration will be for D-Link DVG-1120S. So congratulations, you've made your DVG-1120M, that was the AT&T unit, into a more generic DVG-1120S unit. The difference, though, is not just the firmware. There's also a bootloader that you need to change. And if you don't do that, then you won't be able to actually register to a SIP server. So you actually have to change both the firmware, so it's speaking the SIP protocol, and the bootloader, so that it's booting into SIP and being able to connect to a SIP server and be your phone. So after we've done that, we need to change the bootloader as well, and we go back in the same way that we did before, and we want to do a firmware update again. And we do exactly the same thing that we did before with the runtime module, but we're changing the prom code this time. It's the identical procedure. And after you've done that, you'd save and restart the system again, and I won't demonstrate that again because there's nothing exciting to see there. And you would then log back into this web-based management console. Now, there's a really, really super important step that a lot of people miss. I get questions a lot of the time about this. TP, I did everything the way you said, and it doesn't work because I can't register. And my answer to that is, well, did you really do everything that I said? Because remember, you have to go back in and you have to do a factory reset. Even after you update your bootloader and your prom, the settings for the device aren't at the defaults. There's still all the weird old MGCP stuff that AT&T programmed in for their network. And until you do that factory reset, it won't pull in the SIP configuration settings and make that what your defaults are. So at that point, once you've done your factory reset, we can now go in and start to configure how we're going to make this work on FreeWorldDialup. And so FreeWorldDialup, how many of you guys are familiar with FreeWorldDialup? Okay, a ton of people. I'm surprised to see so many users. Does anybody else use a different service that does SIP apart from FreeWorldDialup? Broad voice, yeah. Any others? Free digits, great. So there's a lot out there, and that's one of the things that makes SIP so cool. By the way, I've got like some T-shirts to throw at people. So who knows what session initiation protocol? What's the RFC for that? That man just won a free T-shirt. Who? Get it to him. Okay. So terrific. So now since so many people here know what FreeWorldDialup is, I don't really need to go through what that is or why it's cool and useful and all that, which is kind of cool because I hate giving that talk. But we want to put our FreeWorldDialup configuration into this device so we can use it as an ATA. And this is actually kind of a better device to use in a lot of respects than some of the other devices that you can use that you can also flash to do SIP, because this is a really big honkin' over-engineered AT&T device, and you can run an insane number of phones off it. The reason that I got into this in the first place is because my whole house is run through this patch panel, and my old SIP device didn't have enough line voltage to be able to run all of the extensions in my house, but this does. It's designed to be a straight-up landline replacement service, and it can ring all of your phones with the full line voltage you'd expect. It has some serious limitations, among them that you need an externally routable IP, but that's something that for the hardcore geek shouldn't be too much of a problem usually. So we want to make this so that it registers, and so I want to go in and I want to set up the SIP configuration in the server, and this isn't done. Oh, this isn't done because I set back to factory defaults, so we need to go get a FreeWorldDialup account unless somebody has their FreeWorldDialup that they'd like to use with this. No? Okay. And I'm not on the internet, so we'll turn on the wireless network. So does anybody have any questions while we do this about this device or the procedure at all? Okay, there's more than half. Okay, so FreeWorldDialup is not a landline replacement service like Vonage or any of the services that you might normally use. Actually, yeah, we can just use my FreeWorldDialup configuration. That's fine. Oh, here we are. And we want to get started. So we're on the FreeWorldDialup page, so that's actually kind of cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up, so FreeWorldDialup, there's some really interesting things about it. First of all, they aren't subject to CALIA. And if you've read my other article recently on how your calls get listened to by law enforcement, that's a pretty important thing. Because they're not a telephone service, they don't have to provide a way for law enforcement to spy on your calls, which is kind of neat. Another thing that they do that's a little bit different than regular phone service is they don't provide a way to make outbound phone calls to the public switch telephone network except to certain toll-free numbers. They've got gateways, but they don't provide direct connectivity. And then there's third-party services that you can use to plug into FreeWorldDialup, so you can get a real phone number out on the public switch telephone network, like, with a 206 area code or anything. And it'll dial your FreeWorldDialup number so people from the regular phone system can call you. But anybody with FreeWorldDialup can call anybody else with FreeWorldDialup for free. So it's a really handy service, and it's free, so the price is definitely right. So Pulver's just changed his page. Jeff Pulver runs the service, and I need to figure out how to get us signed up for an account. Actually, I'm not going to do that because we're running short on time. I'm just going to use my credentials here. So let's go ahead and log into my account and make sure that, we've got an IP address conflict. That's awesome. So somebody's messing with me here. That's fine. It's always fun to mess with the guy doing the demo. So we'll plug back in here, and we're going to need to, so the way when that happens, somebody's figured out what IP I'm on, and they statically configured on the wireless network so that I couldn't get anywhere. Neat. That's a cool hack, actually. I'm going to have to remember that when anybody's doing a demo on the wireless network. So we're back in here, and we'll go to SIP configuration. And you guys are all going to get my number, which I was kind of trying to avoid, but that's okay. So we want to use fwd.pulver.com, which is what we're using which is just the standard FreeWorldDialup domain. And we do fwd.pulver.com here. What's that? Oh, somebody's hacking me there too. Oh, you do? Oh, it's okay. I'll tell you when to blank it. Yeah, because otherwise I'm sure I'll get a lot of interesting phone calls from interesting people. And so user parameter phone, like there's a whole list of things that we say. We want to enable the user parameters for our phone, and everything else we should be able to leave at the defaults here. So we'll save that, and we're going to restart our system later. And then for user agent, what we want to do is don't change that default value. And what we're going to enter in the phone number, we're using our FreeWorldDialup phone number. It's covered up, right? And the display name that we enter is just whatever you want your name to be, so Emmanuel Goldstein. And displaying caller ID I enable because some people won't answer the phone if you don't have that. And for the authentication username, you want to use your FreeWorldDialup phone number, and you put your password in, and you'll sign up for your FreeWorldDialup phone number on the FreeWorldDialup.com website, and you select what you want your password to be, and then they'll send you an email with your new phone number on FreeWorldDialup. So having done that, assuming that I have configured this correctly, we're going to save changes and reboot the system later because there's one more thing that I need to do, and that's to enter my IP address. Oh, for here, yeah, that's fine. So I want to get the IP address. We've got to tell this how to get on the internet. And I have the internet here supposedly in this cable. And the whole internet, all the tubes, yeah. And yeah, it's different than trucks, isn't it? And 70.47.72.47. So please don't ping flood me, because that's just mean. And remember, this has to have an externally routable IP address. And if you don't know what that means if you have a device commonly sold as a router, it's really just a NAT device. But if you've got anything that's like calls itself a wireless router or like home network router or anything like that, you will not get an externally routable IP address. This has to go directly into your DSL modem or your cable modem, and sometimes you have to flip those into something called bridge mode for this to work. So keep that in mind. This is a really bad device to buy if you can't get more than one externally routable IP address. So check with your provider, cable modem, or DSL or whoever before you do. And so our default gateway is going to be 70.47.72.33, and the host name that you can enter is just whatever you want your host name to be. So we'll use Murkowski. Actually, we won't, because my machine is flipping out. I'm using IE. I normally use Firefox, so I better not say that. But we'll go ahead and save the changes, and now that's going to reboot this device. And we should hear it click. Caller ID spoofing. I am not covering caller ID spoofing, no. That's actually not something that you would do in any sense other than on FreeWorldDialup. You can enter whatever you want as your caller ID, and you can enter whatever name you want as your caller ID, and you can choose whether to send it or not in this device, but that doesn't have anything to do with the public switch telephone system, because actually if you use the toll-free gateway, you're coming out from a number in New York regardless of where you are. So I'm sure nobody would ever want to use a calling card to tell the president that his mother is ugly and his feet stink, but you could actually do that, and it would be more or less sort of anonymous, especially if you set this up from some location like a badly configured wireless cable modem or something. So now we're back in here, and we can go back to make sure that our IP address information was correctly entered. And we didn't enter a host name, we didn't enter a DNS server because the browser failed, but I do have that, which is 70.47.72.34. I'm sorry this isn't more exciting. A lot of hacking is like entering things into fields, and we don't need a username or anything for our WAN, so we'll save that, and we have to restart again because it didn't take the first time, but it's quick. I'll hold it up here so you can hear it click. That's one of the really cool things this does. It clicks at you. Oh yeah, give me that click. Did you guys hear that? The clunk? No. What's that? Oh, maybe. Alright, so where's our phone? Because we're getting pretty close to being able to actually use this, assuming that I remembered my password and entered it correctly. That's one of the other fun things. Aha, I do have one. So let's see if this works. Because I do have a blinking status light. That's not good. It shouldn't be blinking. It should be solid. All right. Pardon me? Well, let's see. See, I should be able to get out to the internet if this is correct. Yeah, let's do walmart.com. Okay, that isn't going through, so what's going on here? So we do have a WAN IP set, and we've said that we want that to be manual. And we have the subnet mask. Is this correct? If anybody in the know? No, we're like on a smaller subnet, but so do we have the correct default gateway configured? Well, I can't ping anything on the internet, so I'm not sure we have network connectivity. That might be rule number 2 of blown demos. We don't have like correct network connectivity, but we'll see. Pardon me? Try restarting the, well, yeah, that's a fair thing. Fair suggestion, try restarting the device. Yeah, the NAT function is enabled, so in theory I should be, if I had network connectivity to the outside, I should be able to get to the internet. So I don't have network connectivity to the outside if anybody's able to get that working. No, that won't do any good. I have like a specially like configured by the Hope like network externally routable IP on this cable supposedly, but it actually isn't working. So, okay, if I had been able to connect, then I would demo a call, but rule of blown demos is that I instead throw t-shirts at people. So, yeah. I can't throw very well to the back. Like, some of you guys should, like, proxy them back to the back, because that's just not cool. What's that? Yeah. You have an externally routable address. Okay, if you have an externally routable address that we can get into this machine on this cable, then I will have a demo that actually works and we can call things. Because that's, I think, what you guys wanted to hear is phone calls. Like, yeah, I like making prank calls. I do have a link light on this WAN cable. I just don't have a, like, it's not actually getting me anywhere. Somebody suggested I set the router for DHCP and see if that gets anything. That's not a bad suggestion. Let's do that and then use yours. So, do you have a dual NICs in there?
Well, not the same type of NIC, one wireless, one wired.
Okay, so if I plug into the wired NIC, do you have an externally routable IP that you can give me, so not an RFC 1918 space? Oh, well, let's just do that. Oh, no, it can't be NATed. It has to be like a real IP, and it's got to be static or DHCP, one or the other.
Did you try 224 as a subnet?
Yes, 224 is what I used as a subnet.
Okay. Actually, if there's somebody who's a Linux guru, we need one person to hold it, another person to type. So if somebody's skilled in either of those areas. I can hold. Can you hold? Okay, great. Do I have to be a Linux guru to do that? No.
Yes, so can you confirm this is correct? So you got an IP for me?
Somebody,
Oh, you got no power?
well, yeah.
Okay, well, we suck because we have like no outside internet here.
You got power.
Oh, do I have power?
This is why.
Oh, I have power. Okay, we're still working on it.
If there is anybody who's a Linux guru who wants to provide some oversight, that would rock too. This is why SIP sucks. Go IAX.
Oh, these are not like regular power outlets. Here's one of those. All right. Well, we've got 10 minutes to get it figured out.
There's nobody who's Linux networking expert here? I know so. What I have is a wireless routable address. Fully routable address. And then I plug to his networking computer. Okay. So we want to get his laptop.
Well, I can't reach his network.
This is the Hope network? No, that's his personal network. Okay, I see. The Hope network wireless. Let's give me a little bit of wireless. Give him the wireless on this thing.
What's that?
You don't have wireless on it? Or was it?
On this device? No, it is not a wireless device.
All right. Well, it takes about 3 minutes to do that.
Okay, so while we figure out the network stuff, does anybody have any questions about SIP in general, or like this device, or like why I suck, or North Korea, or like anything? What's the best Linux client? I don't know. I don't do Linux. What's the best Windows? Oh, what's the best Windows? Oh, SSH client or SIP client? You mean soft phone? Okay, if you want a soft phone, X Lite isn't bad. Yeah, you got a question.
Yeah, is there anything like FreeWorldDialup that you can use to phone into the public?
There are,
Phone
yeah.
networks?
There are a lot of different services. See, the cool thing about this is like it speaks SIP, and SIP is kind of a standard for voice over IP. And so any service that you can find out there, Broad Voice is one of them, there are lots of others, that does SIP, you can use this device with. You can only use it with one service at a time, though. So that's why I like FreeWorldDialup, because it's such a versatile service. It allows you to call other people with FreeWorldDialup. It also allows you to make phone calls toll-free, not just to toll-free numbers in the US, but toll-free numbers in the UK, Japan, the Netherlands, Germany. It's kind of fun to like make prank toll-free calls to the UK, but I'd never do that. Next question?
Yeah, I just got a Vonage, and I was just wondering if there's anything like this administrative console that you know of for their little
Yes.
voice over IP routers.
There's an old Vonage adapter made by Linksys called the PAP2, I believe. Is that correct, kid? And the PAP2, you could reflash and unlock the same way that you can with this device, and you could use it with any service, including FreeWorldDialup. Of course, Vonage really doesn't like it when you do that, because they give that device to you at a considerable discount.
Is there any place online I might find directions on how to flash this or that you just mentioned?
Oh, yeah. There's, well, if you get the, not the current issue of 2600, but one before, the article that I wrote on how to do this device includes some things to search for on the web that will tell you, that'll lead you exactly to the files you need to flash this with. There's also some other websites people have come up with that, hackers tend to figure out passwords when manufacturers change them. And if I'd had a lot of, time to, guess like really tough things, like instead of admin, maybe changing it to administrator as the username, which I didn't test, I bet I could have gotten into this. But, obviously when you're doing a demo, you'd rather just switch to your backup. But if you've got this, if anybody wants this device and wants to hack it, come see me after the talk. And as long as you unlock it and you tell me how you did it, then you can have it. Yeah, next.
Yeah, when you're using like SIP to talk or things like that, is there security on that, or can anybody listening to your packets just listen to your conversation?
That's an excellent question. So SIP is totally insecure. Everything's done completely in the clear. And not only that, if you're using most popular codec, the most popular codec is called ULAW, which is this uncompressed codec that just basically like lays your voice down as a WAV file that's 64K. It's a little more complicated than that, but not much. So yeah, like anybody who wants to, who has access to your internet connection, although I'm sure the NSA would never illegally sniff what you're doing, they could, anybody could listen to what you're doing. So the fact that SIP doesn't, by definition, support CALIA, which is what I wrote about in my last column, which is a backdoor that's built into these devices so the FBI specifically can backdoor your device and listen to you. Even though that's the case, it doesn't mean that you're in any way secure using SIP. It's not designed for security whatsoever.
Can I use that as a device to hook up to my local Asterisk box?
Yes, my understanding is, and I have not done this myself. See, I'm kind of dumb, and like I do Windows stuff, not Linux. And Windows administrators are just kind of like not very smart and really lazy. And I'm basically like I fit into that mold nicely. I understand you can use this as an extension on your Asterisk box. So that's kind of cool because you could use Asterisk to subscribe to multiple services, and you can also configure Asterisk to say, well, if I'm calling this number, go out through this service. If I'm calling this number format on the dial plan, use this service. And you could use this device to drive your telephones. And it does a really, really good job of that because it can, literally can supply enough line voltage to handle my 42-line punch-down block, and it's just nuts. Dude, that's an awesome Domo-kun chart. There's somebody here with like a badass Domo-kun chart. Yeah, so I'm being told maybe we have a network so we can actually demo this. Oh, address this? Or, okay, so you want to put an IP address on this. Yeah, what's our IP here? And we've got 5 minutes to figure this out, or we're really going to suck. Here, you just type it.
Instead of sending a call, could you send an image file that's been encrypted so somebody can decrypt it at the other end, etc.?
So instead of sending a call, can somebody send an image file? I'm not sure what you're referring to between what and what.
In other words, so what it would, instead of a voice, you're sending sound that can be decrypted at the other end.
Oh, that's a fantastic question. So could you talk over a SIP connection using some sort of encrypted phone with maybe something secure like the Clipper chip in it? Well, yes, you certainly can. There's absolutely nothing in the codec or with SIP itself that would stop you from using an encrypted telephone. But obviously the call setup data, so who you're calling, that's all in the clear. So you can't keep that secret, and that's often a lot more interesting when you're being prosecuted for something than the actual content of your calls or being blown up. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Hi, you've said numerous times that you need a publicly routable IP address.
That is not a requirement of SIP. That's just a requirement of this crappy AT&T device.
Why? What's the reason for that?
Because their firmware sucks. They don't support STUN, which is the protocol that you use to deal with NAT. So actually, if you set this up as an extension of your Asterisk box and you have Asterisk handle stun for you, then you're way smarter than I am because Asterisk is kind of hard to set up and you have to have Linux. Well, you don't, but it doesn't work very well in Windows, and I'm just not that smart. So that's why I'm kind of dumb and I use a simple device like this, and I have 5 IP addresses anyways, so it works. The PAP2, I understand, if you can still find one, supports stun. So if you're able to get that, then you don't have the need to run an Asterisk box.
Can you spell that and what does that stand for?
PAP2?
No, stun.
Oh, stun. No, actually, I should have kept a T-shirt for whoever can define it. But Gid is like Asterisk God, and he doesn't even know.
Yeah, it's like SIP traversal something.
It's STUN?
Yeah, STIP traversal something for NAT. Oh, simple traversal of UDP through networks or nets.
How much bandwidth does the voice portion of the thing use?
That depends on the codec that you select and the codec of more importantly, of whoever you're talking to. So you can prioritize which codecs you use, but if you want to, if you support a codec that, say, ULAW, that somebody else only supports and they don't support any of your others, then you just have to plan for the worst case. And so the worst case is 64K per voice channel. And this only supports one voice channel, so it's 64K. Domo-kun, what's up?
Hey, so there's a VMware image out there called Asterisk at Home, and you just start it up and it's a PBX and you get a web config. Can I do
Oh,
the
you have
same
to be
thing?
smart enough to have VMware, though, and I only know how to do virtual PC.
It's free now. Come on.
It's free? Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
free. Yeah, go check
Yeah.
it out later. So can I do the same setup with Asterisk at Home as I can with that box? Can I hook it up to FreeWorldDialup and just do it all in one computer?
You can. Here's the problem. This box is really cool because you just use a regular telephone and you pick it up and you get a dial tone and you dial things. And if you've set it up right, you can even make calls and they go through and stuff. So, yeah, if you've got your network working correctly and things like that. So that's kind of what I was hoping to demo today. But with Asterisk, I mean, this is just something that runs on your computer, and your computer doesn't, have a plug for your phone. And actually, what you do is you can plug this thing into your whole home phone system. So I've got this connected to my punch-down block behind my refrigerator, and any extension phone I pick up in my house I can use. So that's why these boxes, and this is certainly not the only one you can get. There's lots of them. They're called ATAs.
Right.
That's why these kind of devices are really cool, because people don't like using a headset and being tied to their computer and having to mess around with a soft phone to be able to make phone calls. And I literally use this as a landline replacement, because who actually uses their landline anymore? I don't know about you, but I'm carrying around 2 cell phones. So the only people that I want calling me on a landline is work, because that's the one I never answer unless I'm expecting a call from work.
So about how much is AT&T discounting those?
How much is this? I paid...
No, I know you said 20, but how much do you think they're losing on each sale?
Oh, if you want to buy one that isn't locked and that you don't have to do this kind of thing with, you can expect to pay up to $150, which is why for $20 it's kind of cool to get one of these and hack around on it for a while and figure out what they changed the administrator password to so that you can get it for $20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So we've got a 5-minute warning at this point. We've got somebody on after us too, don't we? Oh, it's stop time. Okay, so we got to stop. Okay, so if you guys would like to see a demo of this later, bring me an externally routable static IP and I'll show you.